Just before we get started, it is of course Sunday, therefore I've got a few items up in the stash shop. So in today's update, we have these Koh-i-Noor pencils that we used in the upgrade video. These are great pencils and I really like someone to benefit from having a little go at these because I really like them. I also have one of my custom notebooks for sale as well, so we've got another little underwater scene with a little bit of metallic paint on it as well. So maybe it's for back to school, or maybe you just want something cute to write your lists in like me, then that's going to be up today too. I'll also be sticking in the white Uniball signal pen that has come in this scroller box. I already own one of these, so I'm going to pop that up for someone else to get use out of as well. So you can head over to the stash shop at the website. This is the address. The link is also down in the description for you to check out and buy yourself some goodies, or maybe you're going to buy something for someone else. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today we're going to have a go at the Scrawlrchallenge for the August Scrawler box, which is Digital Dystopia. This is a good one, isn't it? Just a quick reminder of the supplies that we've got. We have these 3 twin tip Molotov paint pens, and I have green, blue and black. We also have the Writer for Vellum pens. This is the twin tip black marker pen. And my Derwent line maker is a red one. Apparently you can also get a pink or a yellow one. I'm quite glad I've got the red one, to be honest. And as I just mentioned, the Uniball Signal white. I say I'm not going to be using this particular one because I've already got one. So I'm just going to switch that out for my slightly more battered and well-used one. So I'm quite optimistic that our supplies are going to work well together. When we did our test board, this went very well and everything seems to play quite well together. We are going to have to be careful with the white gel pen on top of some of these if we're going to layer it up. But we'll tackle that if and when we come to it. So I want to jump straight into my sketchbook. I really need to take my time on the planning and sketching out section of this. I have a very clear idea in my head of what I want to do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to translate it onto paper, and that's not a very common thing for me, so this really is going to be challenging. So I need to spend the time on the sketchbook section to make sure it's going to look right, and if I can get it right in here then I can just go for it and fill my boots, as it were, when it comes to the actual artwork on the artboard. So something I like to do when I'm checking out ideas in my sketchbook, especially if it's mixed media, things like paint pens, these don't fare too well in my sketchbook. It wasn't really designed for that. So quite often I pick out a range of coloured pencils just to represent the colours that we're getting in whatever media it is we've got. So when I'm trying to work out what I'm doing here, I've picked out a blue pencil and I usually just swatch them down the side, and a green pencil, and that's obviously to take place of the paint markers. I've got a black one there as well. The colours don't have to match exactly, but it's just so you know what you're working with. The line maker pen will be fine in here, so I'll just pop that in there as well. So that just kind of helps me along as I'm going along, just to figure out what's going where and what colours to use. It also means I'm not, splattering paint everywhere and dipping my hand in it the way I normally do, that kind of thing. You guys know me by now. When I think of dystopia, I think of things like The Hunger Games and George Orwell's 1984, and that's kind of what was in my head with this. I'm also one of these people, obviously I am on social media because the internet, because YouTube. But it's something that I have a sort of tempestuous relationship with, and I don't necessarily agree that social media is always a good thing. There is a very, very negative side to it. So in my head I was thinking of this sort of Orwellian dystopia where people are forced into logging onto social media for a set amount of hours a day, and it's going to be like most of the day to serve a higher purpose. I don't know what that higher purpose is. I never really got that far with it. I'm thinking like almost like an industrial factory setting, but I want it to be quite a simple, clean piece. I don't want there to be lots of detail because we're working with these really big chunky markers as well. Well, when I say big chunky markers compared to a pencil tip, you know what I mean. I was thinking that maybe people go to this sort of like industrial factory setting. They go into doorways depending on which social media they've got to be logged into. So like the logo would be above the door, then you would have your person here. So I will be doing it, and I will be drawing part of a person. That's not something I do very often, but I was thinking more about the perspective. So maybe we'd be able to see like a couple of doorways, and this is why I wanted to sketch this out, because I'm not entirely sure what this is going to look like. But our person's going to be here, in this corner. And maybe they've got to wear like a kind of VR kind of mask. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't got that far yet. But the other thing I wanted to show as well, I wanted to show like a timer. You know, like an almost like an 80s digital alarm clock, and because that was the period I thought the red pen would come in. So like the number of hours that they've got to be logged on to whatever social, or be active on whatever social media, would be on a timer above the, you know, the logo for the app. But my thinking was as well, what we would do is we would use the black to our advantage. So everything around about here would be black, and what that would do is then the numbers would stand out, and then you would have your social media app. So say it was Twitter, you could use the blue for that, and then it means we could use the green, maybe, you know, maybe they're wearing a green shirt or whatever, and we could use the white to have the reflection just off the front of the face and off this visor, so that because the light's coming from the door. I need to do this from different angles to see what's going to look best. Let's see what happens if we do this with a 2-point perspective. I feel like I want them to have a collar on their shirt as well. But see, you won't be able to see most of the detail on the far left of this because the light source is coming from here. So it is literally going to be like a silhouette. So if we want to put some details in, you know, it would be nice to have, maybe they've got epaulets on their shirt or whatever. You know, it might be nice to put some of those details in just so that it gives us a good suggestion of the fact that there's a person there. I don't quite know, I might be able to water these down, that just to give us like a gradient fade there. And then we would use the green here, just to get some highlights, you know, maybe get a few creases and things in there. Righty ho ho, so what you can see I have done here is I've actually stuck my board onto a larger sheet of paper. Now this can be quite handy if you don't use perspective drawing an awful lot of the time, i.e. me. Then if your vanishing points are actually off the side of your canvas, it means you can still put them in and still draw your lines in, and it just gives you a bit of help. Obviously if they're very extreme, you might want to like stick a bit of blue tack onto your desk or something and just line your ruler up, but I find this is something that's really helpful, and I found it especially helpful when I was learning about perspective drawing. So all I've done is stuck it down with a bit of blue tack, so it's not going to move about, because obviously if it moves when you're drawing, then everything's going to be all thrown around. Going to be skewed, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, so I've just drawn in my little doorway. This seems to be my sort of starting point, because once I know where this door's going, then I can work everything out from there. So we just want to plot the points on the main part of the doorway here. Okay, so that's me, got all my points plotted out now, and I want to put in my person. So I want to think about size here. Maybe, well, I actually want to bring that up there because I want to kind of obscure the fact that there might be more doors there. Right, I've got rid of some of my perspective lines now. I want to keep this quite plain because I really want to give the idea that this is the only thing that's important and the only thing there. There's nothing else to do but to go through that doorway and start on your social media slavery. I think we could maybe have a little bit of interest though, just running down the sides of these walkways. So I'm going to start off just by blocking in my black areas. This may take some time, so I'm just going to get started on that. And obviously I'm using the larger nib of the Molotov marker for this. So for these more detailed areas round about the social media logo and the timer, I'm going to try and use the Zig Writer pen because these spaces are quite tight and the nib's too big on the paint pen. I don't know how well these two blacks are going to blend together because this seems to be much more matte, so it might stand out a wee bit, but I really don't have any choice in the matter here because these are really, really fine areas. So I'm just going to see how I get on. I have to say my hand is not the steadiest today, which is ideal when you want to do stuff like this. Because this pen looks much greyer than the paint pen. I don't even know what I'm going to do with these ones over here, but I'll worry about that when I get over there. So I'm getting quite far on now with this paint pen, and the nib is starting to fray slightly, but also what I'm finding is on the larger tip, let's try and show you in a white bit there, the paint letdown seems to be really slow and quite scratchy, as if the paint flow can't keep up with my strokes, and I am going in one direction, I'm not scrubbing back and forth. But it does seem to be quite dry, whereas the smaller end still seems to be quite juicy. So I think that the barrel size is maybe disproportionate to the nib size, and this is one of the problems. And I've actually got paint leaking out Again, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but there's a bubble of paint leaking out on the small tip. This is, like, I don't think paint markers are really designed to be double-ended, to be honest. So that's a bit disappointing. I really had high hopes for these double-ended Molotov markers, and I think if they just brought out normal, with one, paint markers with one tip, or if they've already got them, then that would be much better. But you can see the difference. Like, look how juicy that is with the smaller nib. And I'm still going at the same speed, but it just seems to fit better with the smaller nib, so that's slightly disappointing. And because of that, there are a lot of areas that look very grey. You know, you can see my strokes, and I'm going to have to go back over it and cover up the spaces. Whereas if I'd used the smaller nib, it would probably have taken me about 4 weeks to get this far, to be fair. But I feel there would have been better coverage, so that's something to note as well. They're not great for larger areas, but there's fibres coming off of this left, right and centre. Like the nibs aren't really robust enough, especially this is slightly textured, and I've talked about this in a couple of videos just recently with paint pens. The more textured the surface, the more damage the nib takes every time that you use it. So if you can get replacement nibs and they're fairly cheap, then it's not too bad. But it's kind of this, it's almost like a bit of a false economy, because you've got these refillable pens and all the rest of it, but if they're not up to the task and you have to keep replacing nibs, well, you know, I know that's still cheaper and probably much more eco-friendly than buying a new pen, and I understand that, but if you're going to do something like that, you know, make the product fit for purpose, because realistically, if you're wanting people to use your paint pens to the point where they need refilled, that means they're going to be using them a lot. Make the rest of the pen stand up to the job. This is I've been at this for ages. Okay, I've left kind of a bit of an outline here because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do the body yet, but I just wanted to get this section in, and I'm quite happy. Perspective is not my strong point, and I can see that this path here is slightly off, but generally I'm quite happy with what's going on, because that is very sort of, you know, far away. I might even correct that with a little bit of the white gel pen and just bring that line down a little bit on this one here. Got overzealous with my black pen there. So the next quandary is whether to fill in my little social media squares and then put the logo in with the white gel pen. And I think because of the size of the nibs, I'm going to have to do that. I think creating an outline in pencil and trying to work around it is a really bad idea. So that's just what I'm going to do. Even the nib on this is slightly frayed, and I've hardly used this. Literally demoed it out, and you can actually, there's actually a fibre just come off on the paper there as well. So I'm afraid these markers aren't really doing it for me. Oh, it would have been nice to have a few other colours to put in, you know, the different icons for different social media, but we've got to work with what we've got. That's the way it works. Now here's where things are going to get interesting, because I'm going to try and dilute these paint pens and see what happens. Stick some black in there. So water. And I've just got an acrylic paintbrush here as well. And I want to test this out. I'm going to use my test board. Okay, so that is really, really watered down. Okay, so I just want to grab this down the sides here. And that's going down on the board quite nicely, actually. I'm quite impressed with that. So I did just put my digital times in now, and obviously they're not going to be particularly obvious in these smaller ones. Make it look like we know what we're doing. These ones can literally just be a little set of lines and marks and dots. Okay, so I need to work on my little logos here. Now, something I want to try, and again I'm going to try this on the practice board. I've just moved this out of the way for a little minute. I want to see if I can blur out this white gel pen while it's still wet. Just got a cotton bud here. Okay, it's just kind of lifting it. It's not really... Well, in saying that, that might work. We might have to be careful doing this if this is one of those things that you could just end up ruining everything, but risk it for a biscuit. But even if I start really conservatively down the bottom here, is this going to be worth it? Probably not. And it is picking up the pigment underneath, which again, I fully expected, to be honest. Okay, we'll let that dry. My little Twitter birdie's looking a bit, he's looking a bit deformed. He looks more like a duck than a Twitter bird. I think I need to add more into his wing. Oh, think I made that one. No, okay, I'll take that. That's fine. Oh, God. I'm just wondering if I can tidy up my mess here with my white pen. Yeah, just make that a bit crisper around there. Maybe fix this too. That's working reasonably well. Okay, so coming over here now, we're going to utilise a lot more of the green. And I'm just going to start by putting some lines in for myself. This would be the edge of the visor, and maybe we would have a little bit of light showing there. Now obviously I'm going to have to fill this in black, but I need to leave myself some markers so that, basically so that I don't lose my pencil lines. And then I can mark out parts of it. Can you see? I can mark out parts of the collar here. Obviously I'm using the smaller end, you know, so maybe there's a little bit of colour there. And we can have some coat creases here. And again, the hair, I think I'm going to go with the blue for the hair. Maybe we're in a time further away where people have hair that matches the social media icons. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now, guys. Okay, so I want to tidy up my paint lines down here now, down this outside edge, because this needs to be really crisp. So it doesn't matter if I go over some of the green there, because obviously these pens are opaque and we can just work back over them as long as it doesn't disappear completely so I don't lose my silhouette. Now realistically I can fill in most of this, so I'm just going to block this part off, get my big nib out, see if it's going to play ball. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit of touching up now here. Go make them look as if they've got a normal forehead, that's all. And really we want to be utilising the white of the paper here, so I think I'm actually going to use the smallest nib. So what I do want to do is just go back in with this diluted acrylic, because what I do want to have is quite a defined line here, where the chin is, hi woo, and in here. So if I pop that in there and then start working that out, you can see that's just making the lower part of the face pop out a bit more. There we go, that's a bit better. And I think as well I'm going to add in some more here. Although this is getting quite technically complicated, I'm actually really enjoying myself here. And the last subscription box challenge I did, I was a little bit stressed out, so this is pleasant. So yeah, I just want to add in a little bit more there just so that we can see that hairline a little bit better. And I'll add in some white gel pen there as well once that's dry. Again, I think this needs to be a bit bolder because it's a very delicate. So I think I'm going to thicken this right up just so it's really obvious that that's a visor. And again, I can accentuate that with a little bit more gel pen. Okay, so thinking about the collar of the shirt here, that's more pronounced than the light source would probably allow, but it needs to be enough so that we can understand the shape, you know, our eye can make some sort of connection. So I'll maybe do a little bit more here. Yeah, so maybe we'll let this come over a bit. And we can add in a few, come on gel pen. Again, the same on the frame of the visor here. Oh, I've got something stuck to the end of my gel pen. It's probably fibres from those paint pens. And then we can do the same here. Not everywhere because we don't want it to be. Maybe I was thinking more down on this shoulder area. Now this is going to pick up a bit of the pigment off the paint, but that's actually no bad thing at this stage. Maybe a little bit here as well, and just where the crease is in that. I'm going to let this gel pen dry a little bit. It is picking up a lot of the green. It doesn't seem to have been so bad with the blue, and it might just be because it's a bit drier. But also on this visor here, I feel as if I want a little bit more grey as well, just to finish this off. So again, very carefully though, I don't want this to be really dark. I feel as if this white's standing out too much now. Maybe I want to define this a little bit more. I'm not really sure at this point, guys, because I've kind of got down what I wanted to get down, so now it's just a case of like playing with it and tweaking it. And this is the point where it's really easy to mess things up without realising you've messed them up until it's too late. But I think that the shoulder here especially needs to be a bit more defined. And maybe we'll do a little bit of broken line work down here. I don't know if that's better or not. I just feel like this bit's sticking out so much. Or, well, maybe I could go back over it with the green. Oh, regrets. Oh no, nope, not regrets. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there before I make a mess of anything else. And I'm going to sign down here today. I normally sign on the left-hand side because I'm left-handed, but I'm just feeling a change. There we go. Okay guys, that turned out a lot better than I expected. I'm not used to perspective drawing. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to fix. Here I go again. I always do this, don't I? I'm not really used to perspective drawing, and it's not something that I use. I mean, I learned how to do it and then never used it again. So this has been fairly challenging for me today. And when I was organising the perspective, I didn't necessarily do it in the correct technical sense, so please don't take that as a lesson in 2-point perspective because it really wasn't. But for the purposes of what I've needed it for, bar a few wonky lines up here, I'm quite happy, and the image that was in my head has come out reasonably well, especially considering that obviously with these challenges we're using limited supplies and limited colours. So yeah, I would love to know what you think of this. I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed in the paint pens. I was kind of hoping for a bit of better performance from them. Granted, especially the black one's not meant to cover this kind of area. That's, you know, you would buy a big chunky marker for that. But even the nibs don't seem to be holding up that well on them either. And the letdown of the paint into the larger nibs seem to be really sluggish compared to the smaller end. I say that's probably to do with the width of the barrel. Rather than anything else. It's still a novel idea. I'm really not a fan of twin tip anything, but they were a little bit disappointing. Line Maker did its job, not that I used much for it, and obviously these gel pens are quite handy. You just have to be really careful when you're layering them up. So that's it for today, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and maybe it's given you some ideas for your own digital dystopia. As always, I welcome your comments down below. If you've made it this far, a thumbs up would be great as well. Thank you very much. So all that's left to say is please take care of each other and stay safe, and I will see you back in the cave. Actually, on Tuesday, we're going to do one of our colour and chat videos on Tuesday. And if I don't see you on Tuesday, I'll see you on Thursday for another video. Have a great day, everyone, and bye-bye for now.